Hello everyone, we continue to learn the remaining contents: plant viruses, plant pathogens, nematodes, and parasitic seed plants, these three aspects, as well as new contents, the relationship between pathogens and parasitic plants. First of all, we learn about pathogen plant viruses, the concept of viruses. A virus is wrapped in a protein capsid and can only replicate itself in its parasitic living cells, containing one or more genomic nucleic acid. The virus with this main feature, simple structured, extremely small body, its biotrough. Let's first look at the morphology structure. 1. From the point of view of morphology, most of the plant virus particles are spherical, rod-shaped and linear, and a few are slug-shaped and duplex. 2. Structurally, a complete virion consists of one or more nucleic acid molecules coated in the protein capsid. 3. From the composition, the main components of plant viruses are nucleic acid and protein. Nucleic acid in the internal only have DNA and RNA, these two kinds. The outside is coated by protein. Code capsid. Let's take a look at the physiological characteristics of plant virus. The first is the infectivity of plant virus. Plant virus is contagious. When tobacco mosaic virus is inoculated on healthy plants, the same disease will occur in healthy plants. The second is the stability of virus plants. Plant viruses have a certain degree of stability and resistance to chemicals and higher temperature. 3. The operation of the plant virus. Virus invades through micro wounds on the cell wall. It can also be transferred directly into plant tissues and cells through the needles of piercing insects. The fourth is the proliferation of plant viruses cannot proliferate without living organisms. The fifth is the phenomenon of multiplication of plant viruses. The phenomenon of multiplex is unique to plant viruses, which means that the genome of the virus is distributed on different nucleic acid chains and packaged in different variants. It must be a group of several three-dimensional infections at the same time to express all genetic characteristics. Then let's take a look at the classification and nomenclature of plant viruses. The classification of plant viruses is carried out by the International Committee of Taxonomy of Viruses. Plant virus branch. The classification and nomenclature of plant viruses are international and apply to all viruses. 2. What is the naming of plant viruses? The naming of plant viruses instead of using Latin double names. Plant viruses are named after parasitic common names plus symptoms. Then let's study plant pathogenic nematodes. Nematodes are a kind of lower invertebrates, usually live in soil, fresh water, and seawater. Many of them are parasitic in human animals and plants, causing all kinds of diseases. Plant pathogenic nematodes are called plant pathogenic nematodes. Then we learn about parasitic seed plants. Parasitic seed plants, we mainly study newberry parasitic and doda. Let's take a look at mulberry parasitic plants. Mulberry parasitic plants belong to the family Muricae. At present, there are mainly two kinds of mulberry parasitic plants in China, namely mulberry parasitids and hairy leaves. Mulberry parasitic leaves are smooth. Flowers are reddish and berries are red, mainly parasitic on Rosaceae, Terracea, and Manglosea. Mulberry parasitic flowers are reddish. Berries are yellow after maturity, mainly parasitic on Lauracea, Camaracea, beech, and so on. Let's take a look at dodder plants. Dodder belongs to the genus Dodder, which is a fully parasitic annual herbaceous plant. Chinese dodder is very common, mainly harms herbaceous plants, while Japanese dodder mainly harms woody plants. Finally, we will learn about the relationship between pathogens and parasitic plants. First, the parasitism of plant pathogens. The parasitism of plant pathogens refers to the ability of pathogens to obtain nutrients from host cells and tissues. Host survival, natural organisms according to the way of nutrition, can be divided into autotrophs and heterotrophs. Plant pathogenic microorganisms, there are two ways to obtain nutrients. 2. Plant pathogens. Pathogenicity and pathogenic mechanism. Pathogenicity of pathogens refers to the damage and toxic ability of the pathogens to host plant tissues. Plant pathogens are parasites, but not all plant parasites are pathogens. For example, rhizobia of leguminous plants and mycelial fungi of many plants are parasites, but they are not pathogens. The mechanisms that pathogens cause disease or the parasitic plants is that 1. Absorb nutrients and water from parasites. 2. Secrete virus enzymes. degrade parasitic structure, sorellum, and cell wall. 3. Secret virus toxins, produce toxic and destructive effects on parasites. 4. Growth regulators. 3. Plant diseases resistance. Plant disease resistance refers to the characteristics of plant to avoid and prevent pathogens from invading. According to the genetic basis, it can be divided into major gene resistance and minor gene resistance. The material basis of plant diseases resistance is divided into two kinds. 1. The inherent structure chemical substances of the plant. The structure resistance including structure and opening and closing other chemical substances. Phenolphthalein unsaturated lactone. 2. The disease resistance factors induced by pathogen invasion include two kinds, namely mechanical defense structure and chemical inhibitors. Finally, let's take a look at plant disease resistances, disease avoidance, and disease tolerance. Plants can't get sick or get sick less because they don't contact pathogens. Disease tolerance means that although plants are infected by pathogens, sometimes the disease is even more serious, but the loss of yield and quality is relatively light. That's all for today's lesson. Thank you for listening.